All right, everybody, we're live. Nice, big, fat, cold, open. Got Robert Bitto, Mexico Unexplained, Wild Trees with a surprise appearance. Game time decision, but he's on the field. He's right here. I think Monster Radio, Ryan Paul Tremblay is a game time decision, too. He's having some personal issues that just exploded on him. But check out a link to his Monster Radio in the description anyway, because he needs some love right now, please. He needs all the help he can get. He's going down with his ship. Anyway, if you may have noticed, any of you following that are old followers have noticed the podcast name is different on your screen now. I have changed it to the Caffeinated Cryptid with Bobby Dizzle. I'm still here. And I've changed it because my last podcast was, my original podcast was a caffeinated adventure through all my favorite topics. Turned out my favorite topics were mostly paranormal, and paranormal people are easy to find. Hence the gaggle of them I have right now on short notice. Anyway, and Caffeinated Adventure is back. I took it out for a minute. I'm trying to find a way to make coffee a sponsor somehow. This is a local brew that I use from Huntsville called Rooster's Crow. You can stand a spoon up in it. It's nice and strong the way God intended. So I'm trying to include like a coffee segment at the beginning of this. So yeah, Rooster's Crow in Huntsville, not a sponsor, but they should be. They're delicious. And I'm trying to make it more conducive for audio listeners that can listen while they bike and work out and whatever. So that's coming down the pike. I'm rearranging everything. And I'm collecting stories. So if you have a story, you have a guest, you want to be a guest and tell your story, or you want me to read it out loud, throw me an email. Shoot me an email. Don't throw it at me. That'd be impolite. At bobbydizzlecast@gmail.com. And I will read it online, read it on the air, or you can come on and do it, whatever. So check it out. We are Bobby Dizzle. I'm still Bobby Dizzle. The Caffeinated Cryptid with Bobby Dizzle. Here's my new logo. The fine folks at Fiverr.com were nice enough to make that for a nominal fee. I think it's pretty cool. The person that made it didn't speak English, so it was really a trudge. If I didn't know any better, if I didn't initiate the conversation, I'd swear I was being scammed at every turn. So you take logo. Remember when I was brainstorming this and sending it to you, and it was always spelled wrong? I'm like, can you spell it right, please?
Yeah.
I think they were doing that, so I didn't. I think they were doing that, so I didn't steal the sample after
Right.
I realized that she was doing it on purpose. But there's the main T-shirt, and the avatar is just going to be the circle there. That.
Yeah, I used to say that the rough draft versions that Bobby would send me would say the caffeinated crypto or something like that instead of cryptid.
Yeah, caffeinated was wrong. It was all covered in watermarks. The watermarks look like pox on young Robert Bitto's face. I was on a show last night over on with Glenn Jackson, and I showed this to him because I told him I was going to do it tonight. And he said, and somebody goes, "Which way is the Sasquatch facing?" I said, "Is this like that ballerina logo, that ballerina riddle, just going around which way she's spinning?" Somebody said he's obviously facing the cup because he's hanging on for dear life. I don't know. I didn't even think about that. The eternal question for the Dizzlecast.
Bobby, can you talk about how you've been using a Chat GPT for your channel behind the scenes as well?
And if you go to the description of this video, you'll see Chat GPT. That long word salad at the bottom below Ryan's link is all Chat GPT.
Do you have to pay for that?
It's open AI.
Okay.
Chat.openai.com.
Okay. There you go.
You gotta sign up with your email, but I just always type in, a clickbaity keyword rich description for a podcast about cryptids, some of which are from Mexico and yada yada yada. If you read that description, it kind of peppers it in there. Does it really quick. Scary. It's almost like we're useless as beings on this planet now. So I'm like, I'm not working on it. I'm like, I'm lazy now. I don't write anything anymore. There's no really point in it. If I had to put effort into something, I would. But if something like that, I just throw it out there, just make it happen.
Have you
Is that right?
tried Mid-Journey for graphics yet?
Mm-mm.
Mid-Journey? It's AI and it generates graphics for you. I'm just getting into that myself.
I
And
did that, Robert. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
no. I'm just experimenting with it now. It's pretty interesting. It used to be free, but now the basic plan is like $8 a month. And all you do is put in keywords and then it comes up with an image for you. So
For the graphics, I
as
use the one Wild Tree uses.
for me,
Yeah.
I'm not doing Fiverr anymore. I'm going to be using this. And yeah, I've used Fiverr before, and it's funny that you had the Bigfoot graphic. Try explaining somewhat to someone in Thailand like 6 or 7 years ago what Bigfoot was. I think maybe you had the same sort of issue, but I was like, here, look it up, look at these images, and then they got it wrong like the first 4 attempts. I mean, yeah. So the closest thing they got was like Chewbacca. That's the image turned out to be looking like Chewbacca, but I was like, okay, that's enough. That's good enough. But yeah, no more Fiverr, I think, for me for little graphics projects. I'm going to be doing Mid Journey.
Well, Robert, I was going to say, I started using this program the same way you use it. I actually on my channel, Biology Wild Trees, I did an episode on it on how to use it, but it's called Night Cafe, and Night Cafe is actually free, so it does the same thing. So I've generated a lot of thumbnails, and it doesn't cost anything to do that one if you want to check that one out.
Thanks.
Yeah, you have to generate credits for yourself though.
You like if you log on every day, it'll give you credits, and
Yeah,
so
you got
just
like
log
4.
on.
They do a good
Yeah.
job. They're getting the hands better. I've noticed the hands don't have 7 fingers on them anymore. It's usually how you tell on those compilations. You tell if it's an AI or anything just by looking at the fingers. There's like 17 fingers on one hand. All right, let me go back to the new-ish format. So basically, Robert is definitely a good example of what I was going for as far as I wanted to really sink my teeth into the science behind the cryptid thing. That's my favorite subject I've discovered. He's done scientific research on all the cryptids in Mexico and some of the happenings and the legends. And I was going to have Ryan Tremblay on here, and his thing's all about the American cryptids and stuff he's seen. He saw that hyena Dogman.
Oh yeah, that's a crazy story.
Yeah.
He also saw the Pugwudgie, didn't he?
Yeah, on a creek. I keep forgetting about that. I keep forgetting you were there too.
Mm-hmm.
It had the little porcupine here.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah, so I'm doing all things that center around what could possibly lead us to more evidence to the cryptids, which would include our favorite subject, paleontology, our favorite scientific. Because I think the fossil record somewhere in there is the answers. I don't know if maybe the missing link with the Neanderthals or something of that. Something in there has some link to the cryptids. I'm not really sure. I just want to talk about dinosaurs, to be honest. I want to make a reason to do it. And of course, I left my name in there so people that I already know through this will be like, "Oh, that's still me," but different little shtick. I'm niching down, as I told Robert earlier, trying to make something happen.
Right, and I want to congratulate you, Bob, because I know you. We talk a lot, and I know you're really hardworking. You're very passionate and hardworking about your online career. So I salute you for that. That's really an inspiration for me too, from the sidelines.
One day I'll be a powerful force to be reckoned with.
There you go.
And we'll get you on extreme vitamin drip so you can be on these things all the time.
Well, the problem with me is like I haven't done a show in like months, yet I'm still growing. My channel's still getting hours of views, and because I tell myself, I'm like, okay, I check my stats every day. I'm like, okay, when I stop growing and when I stop getting views and watch hours, that's when I'm gonna go back on. But I still keep getting them, and I'm like, okay, I guess I don't have to go back on. I know that's backwards thinking, but I'm just telling you.
The algorithm is insane when it comes to stuff like that because I bet there's a lot of stuff suggesting your stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Well, a lot of my traffic
Just
comes
don't
from
know.
this. A lot of my traffic comes from this one video I did with Fred Roll from Alaska. He's got a website called Subarctic Alaska Sasquatch, and he's really big. And so I just titled my episode with him Subarctic Alaska Sasquatch. And so it's like every time he puts out a video, he gets like a bunch of views. And I think people search it and they see my video, and I get a bunch of views.
I
So
bet that has a lot to do with it. You're definitely like riding. You're like Yoda on the back of somebody's channel that you just don't.
yes,
know.
sir.
You just,
Oh, yes, sir.
you're coming in. What else? I talked about the new shtick. I talked about the new logo. I got Robert. I got Wild Trees. Let's talk about cryptids. Let's talk about fun stuff. Here's Wendell Mosley. Good evening, Wendell. Wendell's going to be.
Hello.
Wendell, where did he go? Wendell has a Sasquatch experience. I can't remember. I'd have to check the messages. He's going to be on another show similar to this in a couple of weeks. I've got a family that's a Bigfoot enthusiast, Bigfoot enthusiast, and the youngest boy of that family dresses up like a Bigfoot for their town in Ohio's get-togethers. They have little conventions, and he's just that town's Bigfoot. But they've had experiences, so he got obsessed with it. And I'm going to have Wendell on there. We're going to have like a little round table, bounce some stories off. What happened was they both said yes to the same day before I forgot the other one said yes, so I had to change my format. No, behind the scenes, it'll work out. They seem cool, you know.
I gotta.
What was that?
Oh no, go ahead, Bobby. I was gonna start off the cryptid talk.
Wendell had kind of a short story, so I said, okay, we'll put a couple of you on there. You can bounce them off and really open up and say some hypotheses off each other. You never know.
Very cool. Well, I was gonna kind of selfishly, but I want to talk about cryptids too. Since we got Robert, this was the question I want to start off with. Okay, I actually have a trip to Cancun coming up in August. I've never been, so Robert's an expert in Mexico. I'm just curious: are there any cryptids from the Cancun region that you know of, Robert?
Well, when you leave the airport, you're going to be going under a bridge that's very famous. When you leave the airport and you're headed to your hotel, if you're in Cancun proper, there's a bridge that kept on collapsing, and you'll go under this bridge that is completely, finished and no problems. You'll see a little stone hut underneath the bridge. Now, that stone hut is the home to the local elusive. Now, what's an elusive? It's a little goblin, a little person who lives in the jungle. And the president of Mexico a few months ago said he did see one in the jungle when he was visiting the Maya train that they are building that's going to connect the major Maya sites. So I think the bridge is called Tizoc something. But when you go under that bridge, look for that little hut, because that's where a supposed cryptid or a mythical creature actually lives. So you can start there. But
awesome.
There you go.
The Maya region, that's one separate region of Mexico. I mean, that's the far, far eastern part of Mexico. And to those who are not familiar with the geography, it's on a peninsula where you're going to be. And that's the heart of where the Maya were. The Aztecs were not in that area. And when the conquistadors came to Mexico, the classic Maya civilization had already collapsed. So all the ruins at that point in the 1500s were being overtaken by the jungle, or had been for 700, 600 years. So anyway, yeah, that is a very unique part of Mexico. It's different from the central part or the northern part. So it should be interesting. There are plenty of ruins around there. You could go ruins hopping, I guess, and just go, you've got to go to Chichen Itza. There are other ruins that are right there. like Tulum is on the coast. That's beautiful. Yeah, you can just, it's a great place. Cancun is a great jumping off point for a lot of different places.
Isn't it where the meteor hit the dinosaurs?
Well, supposedly, yeah, the Yucatan was supposedly hit by, I guess, a meteor or an asteroid or something. Um, of course, that's all theory, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some scientists claim that that's true, whatever. I don't know, but um, yeah, supposedly that's where it. And the meteor, the asteroid, begins with an X. I think they gave it a Maya name,
Mm-hmm.
um, or a CH. I think I don't remember, but yeah.
Wait, does
Ooh.
that mean that the movie 65 took place in Mexico?
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
familiar with that movie.
uh,
65. What is it?
it's a movie that just came out earlier this year. Basically, the idea is that an alien species crash lands on Earth. They look like humans. They look like Adam Driver, and it turns out they look like Adam Driver from Star Wars, Kylo Ren. But they have to get off the alien planet, which is actually prehistoric Earth, and it turns out that there's a ticking time bomb because the meteor is about to hit that kills the dinosaurs. So
Oh,
yeah, technically that would be that area of Mexico.
Yeah, he
oh,
sees it in the
wow.
sky like a big orange star, and he's like, "Wonder what that is." And he points his
Yeah,
little instrument up to it, and it says, "Planet killer, get off the planet." He's like, "Holy shit!" So he starts freaking out. It's like Last of Us meets Jurassic Park. He's got some random
Oh,
little girl he found.
hmm.
it's here's the name of the meteor, Robert. I can't pronounce it, of course, but I could spell it out. It's CHIC, like chick, and then XULUB, Chickaloob.
Shaloub. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Chichalú? Is that Spanish? Chichalub?
No, that's Maya. I'm not sure which dialect. Maybe Yucatec, probably, or Quiche, one of those, I'm sure.
Crater. Oh. Oh, if you type it into Google, a meteor comes across the screen. Ooh, that's a little fun fact for everyone. Type in Chicxulub into the Google search bar, and an asteroid flies across the screen and makes the whole thing shake.
We'll try that right now.
Yep, that's the fun part of my life. That's all I got going on. I'll be here for the next 2 hours. Podcast is over. Kind of like whenever you're whenever you go to Area 51 or Rachel, Nevada, out there by the black mailbox and do a street view with Google. When you pull your little street view dude up by the nape of his neck like a puppy, he turns into a UFO. If you're anywhere around the extraterrestrial highway.
Cool. I just did that teacher loop thing on my mobile phone, and it still happened. So that's pretty cool.
Chicxulub. Damn, that thing's big. That's in the ocean though, isn't it?
I believe it's
they
underwater.
said that some of it went into the ocean and then part of it on the Yucatan. And I'm not sure what evidence they have of this. If it's just, it looks like there's a big impression that was made on the surface of the earth. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that whole.
It says
theory.
just as based on Wikipedia, it says that it is the crater is buried under the Yucatan Peninsula. The center of the crater is offshore near the community of the same name as the crater. There's a community, and it says here that the crater size is estimated to be about 110 miles in diameter or 180 kilometers. And about 12 miles deep as well.
12 miles. And why did I just think of the Sahara? You know the thing that looks like Atlantis and Sahara? This is the eye of the Sahara.
Oh yeah, Mauritania, I think the country of Mauritania.
That's wild that exists. Like this has nothing to do with Mexico, and maybe nothing to do with cryptids. But what do you think Atlantis actually was? Like I know something. In my mind, the ancient world, everybody knew each other, and it was like it is now by some different medium. I don't think everybody was cut off through oceans. I don't think it was. I think everybody knew each other. So, what do you think? You think Atlantis had some connections to modern day Mexico, Latin America? Like, are there
I
any
think it's
evidence? Any
I
common
think it's
theories?
a myth. I'm sorry. I'm very skeptical with a lot of
Erection
things. And
killed.
yeah, sorry. Hey, I'm a negative Nancy, whatever
Start
they
changing your
say.
name to Mexico Explained.
Well, I can't
Fake.
explain Atlantis. And so until it's like a lot of things, until we have some sort of concrete proof, what do we go on? We have stories, but that's about it. I mean, we have myths, stories. Okay, what else? Show me some evidence. I I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen the evidence, but yeah, I don't believe in anything. That's one thing that I make clear all the time
Oh yeah,
in
that's right. We've done this
the
before.
interviews that I do is you have to show me. Okay. I will talk about anything. I will explore any topic and I will put forth what's out there in the literature and whatever other media. But whether I believe it or not, I don't believe anything. You have to show me. And that's what, some people they make assumptions about me. Oh, you know, coming from all different sides, like, oh, well, you must believe in aliens. No, I don't. I don't believe in anything, right? Okay. Or you're a kook because you talk about ghosts. And it's like, no, I'm just talking about it. I'm exploring it. It's my search for truth. And I'm sharing all of these stories with everybody. And if you can figure it out, great. Figure it out, come back to me. Let's talk about it. I love to get to the bottom of some of these things, but I think a lot of these things you can't get to the bottom of, and that's okay. It's fine. I mean, it's good to have mystery in the world. So, let's talk about
Mhm.
it and let's investigate. But what do I think Atlantis is? It's a good story, but
Definitely
what
good.
I mean, that's about it. Sorry.
That reminds me of what I've started doing now. So instead of telling people that I don't know, like I'm into the paranormal, what I do now, I'm like, I'm into folklore. I study folklore because I think modern UFO Bigfoot stories, that's modern folklore, and it just sounds a lot more. It sounds a lot more professional to just be like, oh yeah, I love folklore. I study folklore.
Yeah.
You don't ever light a corn cob pipe and say, "Listen up, kids. The government's hiding it from you."
Because
Government's
people
hiding.
will get it, people will get into this. Let's say there's a myth or something, and then they'll read everything they can on it and they think they're an expert, but what they're reading is just copies and copies of copies of the same stuff. And then they're not putting any of their own thought into it. And they're becoming
Mhm.
experts on a myth. And they think because they've seen it 100 times in 100 different places that it must be true. And there are certain things going around in the alternative research community that are heavy into this. Let's not think about it and let's just keep spreading around the same old thing. And that's not how you get to truth. That's not how you have to use your discernment. You have to use what
Mhm.
education you have, your observational skills, and try to figure it out, and then have the humility to say, I don't know. And most people are not into that. They'll just spout off their stuff and yeah, and then they'll fight with other people in the same community. Like, for example, the Bigfoot community.
Oh yeah.
Is it a real creature, flesh and blood, or is it a shapeshifter? Is it alien? You get the shapeshifter people, you get the
The great
spirit
apes.
animal people versus the biological people, and then they're like this. And you know, I don't know. I'm off on my own anyway, so
It's okay.
I
I'll
don't
tell you
get
the funny.
into I don't get into disputes with people and stuff, and I I just explore these topics that I find fascinating. And I've always found these subjects very interesting ever since I was a little kid. Going to
Oh, me too.
garage sales with my mom and buying things like Chariots of the Gods, um, Gods from Outer Space, all those pulp fiction or uh, pulp books. I almost said fiction. Pulp books that investigated these paranormal topics in the 70s that were all over the place, the early 70s, late 60s, that showed up in garage sales in the mid and late 70s when I was a little kid. And I still have that library actually of all those books. So I've always been fascinated about this stuff, but I can't say I'm a true believer about anything. So you
I don't
gotta
blame
show
you.
me the evidence. And
I have to hold myself back.
there are some animals like the onça, the Mexican onça could be an actual animal. That's been the subject of mythology and hearsay and stuff, but there is a carcass. And if I were a deeper researcher than I am, Mexico Unexplained to me is, a side gig because I own two businesses that I'm really involved with. But if I had more time and if I were involved with this full time, I would follow up on a lot of this stuff. Like, for example, the Mexican onça. People believe that it is a holdover from the prehistoric North American cheetah. There have been carcasses, and one went to university in Texas. Well, gosh, it'd be nice to, follow up with them and see exactly where that went and, be hot on the trail and talk to these people. But, you know,
How do you spell
I don't
that?
have all the
Onza?
time to ONZA. Now, that is a generic Spanish word, and the onça with a C and a little squiggly line under it is also Portuguese. And onça in Portuguese in Brazil is a wildcat, just like a little house cat that's wild in the jungle. That's an onça. And in English, we have a word that is similar, going back to the same Latin root, an ounce, OUNCE, like the weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a little wildcat that we don't use that word anymore. But onça, that can be used as a generic name, but in this case, it's referring to a cryptid that could possibly exist in the mountains of Mexico still to this day.
We just had to hear where I live in Alabama. There's a kind of a back and forth between the Department of Natural Resources and the wildlife scientists and people that are actually outside on farms and things that see black panthers all the time.
Wow.
And it will produce the biggest fights on the internet. There's no registered black panthers. Like, well, motherfucker, I saw one behind my tractor. And like this goes back and forth, even on the Rick and Bubba radio show. Like they'll people call it, I saw one, and it walked like behind my shed, killed a chicken. And they'll have a guy who's affiliated closely. He runs like a big outdoor. He's got the biggest game camera business, the trail cam, biggest trail cam business in the world. Moultrie, he lives here in Alabama, and he'll be like, well, they don't have any registered, so they're not real. And it's just it reminds me of that onça you're just talking about.
Well, they've even had Black Panther sightings in England. In fact, Princess Diana supposedly even saw one. So what is that? Is that part of, then we can go off and say, are they real? Are they thought forms? What is a thought form? Is it possible to create something with your own mind? Right. In my approach, I do keep everything on the table. I haven't proved that thought forms exist, but I'm open to the idea. So, I mean, that could factor into the whole cryptid thing too. Or our thoughts manifesting reality, like you've heard on Oprah or whatever, daytime talk shows and cheesy internet channels about manifesting. Is it true? I mean, never know.
For those at home, here's the article about the Black Panther from Huntsville.
I was about to say about the Black Panther. So my sister owns some property here in Texas. I guess it's the hill country, the town called Somerville, and it's really nice country. But I just went to visit her for Father's Day. The whole family went to the lake, and she was telling me that they have sightings there too of a Black Panther type creature. So
it's all over the
that's like,
southeast and /west, and they just don't want to admit it.
Then how do you explain? Okay, then it's an elusive creature. Okay, how do you explain the sightings in England? I mean, that's an island,
right.
and it's been populated for a long, long time. And I mean, how would you explain that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like,
I mean, as high up as Princess Diana, someone that, popular or well known,
you know where she saw
saying
it?
that
Like, was it?
public.
She wasn't like in the hills or anything, was she?
I think she was of course, she wasn't in a city. She was in a somewhat rural area. I don't know if it was on one of the estates that the royal family owns. I'm not sure exactly, but I do remember that coming out in the 90s that she saw a Black Panther in England. So
I just found out yesterday that there are wild monkeys in Florida. So that's a whole new dynamic.
there were wild monkeys that were living in New Mexico when I was a kid. They escaped from a lab and then they fled to the mountains, and then they were living in a cave and when they found them, but they were loose for, I think, like a year. But yeah, interesting.
Talking about alternative explanations for cryptids, that reminds me of I do work in East Texas in the Big Thicket National Preserve, and there's a whole bunch of Bigfoot sightings there, but it's also right next to a Native American reservation. And I was talking to my friend's boyfriend actually, and he told me that alternate explanation I hadn't heard, that some of those Bigfoot sightings just could be indigenous people that are maybe sticking close to the old ways. They haven't really modernized, maybe they're just like wearing a ghillie suit or something.
Yo, I thought about that. Like, what if it was just them hanging out?
Right. Exactly. And that was something new I hadn't even considered. I mean, that's still fascinating if that's what's actually going on. That's still super cool, but yeah.
It would explain why there's no bodies.
That's true.
Wouldn't really explain the backtrack footprints, but yeah.
I remember there was some guy on Coast to Coast AM a long time ago who claimed to have shot a Bigfoot. His name was Bugs, and he was in Oklahoma. And he swore he didn't want to tell people about it because he thought that they were like mountain men. They were real human, and they were living, out in the mountains. And so that's why he never came forward or whatever. But then he gave, I don't know exactly what happened and, what the ending of that story was, but that was one of the explanations that he gave. Not necessarily Native Americans, but like mountain men, people who are just living off the land and who are kind of wild, and they're just out there. I don't know. It could be possible. Could explain some, maybe a few sightings. I don't know.
I think that accounts for some of it. There's a big thing in the Smoky Mountains about feral people living way out there. They even kidnapped a kid in the 50s or 60s. Never saw him again. Just found like a sock.
Wow.
I heard of that one. Yeah, that's a pretty famous one.
I talked to a lady, Melinda Williams from Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge. She runs a true crime psychic channel where they try to remote view and find and solve these crimes that are cold cases. It's pretty wild. They get close, but she went out there and got some bad vibes off that area, that trailhead where little Timmy went missing.
That Coast to Coast guy is funny because that's basically a guy he's basically just admitting to a murder. He's like, yeah, I killed a guy.
Bugs killed a guy with a trident.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything else about it. I just killed a guy. I don't want to get into details about it.
he pulls a Forrest Gump at the end of it, and that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Did you just admit to manslaughter? No.
Topic change. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Turns out I'm a time traveler. Yeah.
That just reminded me. This is kind of off topic, but I use that line. That's all I have to say about that. When I was doing my master's degree, they grill you. You have to do this like 4-hour intensive grilling session with your mentors, and I really quickly found the trick to the game. I was like, okay, like whenever they ask you a question, like the more you give them, the more they'll push you. And I quickly figured out that's what's going on. So whenever they ask me a question, I would just answer it like as simply as possible, and then I'd be like, I have nothing else to add to that topic. That's just a tip for anybody who ever has to take a master's defense. Don't just answer simply. Don't give them more than you need to.
It's like closing the loop on coding.
Yeah, there you go.
He's at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
That's all. Nothing else to add about that topic.
In the Army, they say nothing heard. Nothing heard. Just move on.
Oh man.
What was the that Black Panther thing? You reminded me. Whenever that first got posted on AL.com, I said, I hope Forrest Gump doesn't ruin their party. Like he ruined the last Black Panther party. Black Panther party.
Oh man. Something else about just talking about cryptids and aliens. After this show, I'm gonna go watch a new movie about aliens. It's a Wes Anderson movie. Are either of you familiar with the filmmaker Wes Anderson?
Is it Meteors or Asteroid City? Is that where you?
Yeah, it's Asteroid City. Yeah, Asteroid City. I'm gonna go watch that. Yeah, I'm super curious because this is a really quirky, artistic director. It's his first sci-fi movie, and apparently, like based on the trailer, you get to see an alien and a UFO. You don't see it in the trailer, but characters mention it. So I want to see what his interpretation of a UFO and an alien is. Like, is it going to look like a gray? Is it going to be just like a guy with like glitter on? I mean, I can't wait to see what he thinks they look like.
So that's going to be an alien movie?
It's basically, from what I understand, there's a city, it looks kind of like Roswell. It's like a desert city called Asteroid City. There's a UFO encounter, and then the whole town is quarantined by the government, and they're not allowed to leave. And that's all I know really about it.
I heard the cinematography is amazing on that movie, the colors and everything. So it's a visual feast for your eyes.
Oh yeah, you get.
Wes Anderson always has the good movies. They're kind of wild.
Yeah. Robert, have you heard about this Las Vegas alien backyard sighting that happened May 1st, but it was reported earlier a few weeks ago? Have you heard about that, Robert?
I heard about it, but I haven't looked into it. I just heard, here and there.
It is a soup sandwich.
It didn't seem like there was a lot of evidence there. I'm not sure though. Maybe you can talk more about it.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, why don't you give your 2 cents and I'll fill it. I'll give my 2. I think about it every day since I heard about this case.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I seek it out almost daily as far as hashtags go, trying to see what's new. I saw that Anthony Sinclair, our good buddy over at Unidentified S4, was talking about how he's disappointed that NASA is trying their best to debunk it. But I just don't. I would like to see what happened to that green streak because I'm not a scientist, as the guy says on The Walking Dead, not a scientist, but like when something that big blows up, it blows up once and comes down, and it does things. But this stayed the same size as far as I could tell. And
well, give us a brief overview on this for those who don't know. And your show is going to be listened to 20 years from now, so keep that in mind. You're going to have millions of listeners in the year 2043 who have no idea what's going on.
I'm going to speak those people to existence right now. T-shirts available at bobbydizzle.com. I'll have a merch store by then.
And your kids will be running it for you, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, tell us what's going on.
Okay, Las Vegas. It was in early May 2023.
May 1st is when it happened.
May 1st, early May, earliest of May, some might say. A green fireball was seen going over Las Vegas in a body cam by a cop who was confronting a drunk person or a combative person. And it was a green fireball going down. I mean, it stayed relatively the same shape, like until it went out of sight behind some trees, I think, trees or houses. They got several 911 calls. The body cam's like, yes. He's like, yeah, I saw it. Then they got the call from the guy's Angel. Was his name Portuguese?
I still don't know if it's Portuguese, but it's probably Latin American. I think he's 18. Is he 18 or 16? This teenager calls 911. You could listen to the call, and he reports
8 to 9 feet beings in the backyard. Big head, crawling over fences, big eyes. He said, "Looks like aliens to me." And that's what he said. And then and the cop comes out there and is looking around the backyard, and he says, "If you see those guys again, don't call me. That ain't my problem. That's your problem." It's a big thing. Like the cops see the stuff. They're in the backyard, and lots of blob squatches because they're zooming in and out.
Oh yeah, let me explain that part, Bobby. Let me explain that part. Okay, so to address Robert's, really good observation, or basically a really good point Robert made is, well, where's the evidence? Okay, so what is the evidence of the actual encounter? The only thing we have so far is the testimony of Angel, which I could go into detail of what happened. And Angel released a video. Okay, this is what the video shows. Really nothing, but maybe something. Okay, it shows his family members. It looks like his dad, his brother, his grandma, and they're all tentatively approaching the backyard. Okay, in Las Vegas. Now, if you look closely, all of them have a gun. Okay, they're all packing heat, so they're obviously spooked, and it's the whole family, right? So if this is a hoax, then the whole family's in on it. Grandma's in on it. Dad, they all got the gun. They look genuinely scared. They approach the backyard. They point they point the camera at the backyard, and they see something, and they get scared, and they kind of scream, and they go back. And the fear looks real. The apprehension looks real. Now, the funny part is that everybody online is trying to zoom in on the background, and they're trying to circle this and that. I'll be honest with you. There's nothing you can see in that video. They are reacting to something. They're reacting to something, but it's just look, if you have a cell phone and you're shooting at night, that's the worst kind of conditions. Cell phones are, I tell this to people all the time, especially skeptics. Skeptics are like, oh, everybody's got HD, videos, cameras now. How come we can't get a clear image of this or that? Well, listen, people, these phones are made for one thing. They're made for taking selfies, okay? They're made for shooting a human subject within a few feet in a really well-lit area. That is all they're good for. That is what they're designed for. They don't have a telescopic lens. They don't have low light capabilities. I'm sorry. They're not made for wildlife. They're not made for celestial objects. They're not made for planes. Nope. So I don't think that's a good... our technology is just not there yet. So anyway... That's the evidence. So like I said, I don't think there's any aliens in that video, but you could see them reacting to something. Now, I could go to more detail because his Angel kid, this is what he said happened. Okay, he said he was in the backyard with his brother fixing the car. Okay, fixing a car in this big backyard. He said he heard an impact. Something hit the backyard. He said he felt like an out-of-body experience. Like that's how big the impact was. Like he felt it through his body. He said he tried to look at the backyard where the impact was, but he said it was blurry. Like his eyes weren't blurry, but the area where the impact should have been was blurred, like almost like it had a cloaking. Then he said he saw two aliens. He describes them as being like 8 to 10 feet tall. He said they were hiding behind some of the. He had a front loader, some construction equipment. He said they had a big eye, a big mouth. They were kind of green-gray skin. He said then, let's see what happened. Oh yeah, he said he looked at the eyes, and when he was looking at the eyes, he felt paralyzed. He said it was like sleep paralysis, like he couldn't move. But then when he looked away, or the alien looked away, he could move again. Then he said the cops came, then the cops left. Then he said that when the cops left, his whole family could hear talking. They could hear a lot of running. They heard a lot of voices. They heard a lot of running on the roof. And he said the whole family got together and prayed. They started praying because they were so freaked out by this. Now, there's a lot of problems with that story. Number one, where's the ship? If there's no debris of the ship, what happened to the aliens? But then again, I mean, if you look at other cases of UFOs and alien beings, a lot of those don't make sense either. You know, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. So the evidence is highly lacking, but just the way he acts, the 911 call, I do think something happened. I think he saw that stuff he saw, but is it a hologram? Maybe somebody's trying to hoax him. I don't know. I just think he's being honest, but that's all I know for sure.
Well, there's those 2 viral videos going around about the ring cams.
I don't know.
But I don't think those are real though.
Yeah, I don't think those are real.
It shows like the alien that looks like a monkey with praying mantis hands.
No, that one's been debunked, I think. Yeah,
I hope so, because if not, we're not paying enough attention to it, because that'd be real.
Did the cops showed up? Did they see anything?
No, they were surveyed the area.
Because they have body cams, right? That are okay in the night time.
Here's what's interesting about the body cam thing. Okay, so they had the body cam on. So they showed this on Las Vegas News, right? They show the body cam of the cop. They show him arrive at the scene in the front yard, and he's talking to the witnesses. Then, when he's about to go in the backyard, the body cam footage is all blacked out. And the news anchor says this. He says the backyard has been blacked out because it's considered private property, which I think is suspicious. Like, why are they withholding this? I don't think that's a good explanation. The police also admitted to, after the fact, setting up a camera in their backyard to monitor the backyard after the incidents. The reason they set it up, they said it was because they wanted to, it's for the safety of the family, in case any kind of weirdos were trying to get back there. That's what they said. So to answer your question, Robert, yeah, like the body footage of the backyard is potentially being withheld. And I don't know, I don't think anybody's heard from the police officers. Like, what did they actually see?
It cuts out of the very suspicious part. You're like, why there?
Yeah.
At least let us pay $5 to see it. Because you're covering up, you're just lighting the fuse of conspiracy theories with that particular, like you said, private property.
And maybe that's the whole point of this. There's been this ramp up and heating up of the whole UFO and alien thing that's happening recently. Yes. Tell me, why is that? There's a reason behind it. Nothing goes to the mainstream media without a reason, without a really good reason. So I don't know. Maybe we're being set up for something. I don't know.
I think Project Blue Beam is in the works.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, they pulled off a lot just recently. I won't go into it, but I think everybody can read between the lines there. So they got away with a lot, and they think they can keep going, and this is the next thing on the list.
They got a big dub.
The whole alien thing. What was that?
I said they got a big W, and they're going to get cocky about it. They got a big win.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Some might say just COVID-19 to know.
Well, you didn't. I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
But
don't make me viral on CNN.
But yeah, so it's curious what things get promoted in the mainstream media. Like right now, I know this show is evergreen, and you're going to have 5 million people in 20 years listening to this. But right now, what's hot in the news is that submarine by the Titanic. What's the reason why that story is so big? There's got to be a reason. There has to be.
But it's wild. And we had that Adam Schiff thing happen today, and that got covered up by it. And it had the 500 refugees died somewhere. I heard that.
Yeah, I heard about that too. The Mediterranean, I believe.
Source. It was on a boat, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah, it was. I believe it was a Mediterranean. Let me look it up real fast.
And I really love it when I talk about stuff like this, and I put forward alternative reason. Like there's got to be something else going on or whatever. Then people say to me things like, "Well, smarty pants, why don't you explain it? What are they doing? What?" And I always say, do you think I'm in on it? How am I supposed to know? I don't know what the reason is behind a lot of this stuff. I'm just showing you, some things that I think are obvious to me, but I'm obviously not in on it. So I can't give you any motivations, reasons, or anything. You know, we can just speculate.
I think
Well,
I've heard this a lot on the hot sheets I listen to, the podcast, that the generation that was in charge of the elite, for lack of a better term, lizard people for a while was too old to understand the internet. And I think when the internet got out there and people like us started talking independently of these ideas, they're like, whoa, 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 you can't say that. You can't say that. We can't get, and they can't control it. And so now they're trying to like throw a big blanket over social media because they realize they maybe can control that now and reel it back in. They didn't understand the internet for so long that it was just like it's an unclosable spigot of information. You can't do
Right.
it.
And there's a hive mind, not to sound too conspiratorial, but what do I mean by that? There's a hive mind. Let's say there was a famous politician that gets accused of groping somebody in a first class cabin of an airplane in 1979. Well, that will come out there, and then a stewardess who worked on that airline will pipe in 5 minutes after the story, hits, and will say, "No, I was a stewardess for 30 years, and it's impossible to grope a woman if you're sitting in first class because there's too much space in between, whatever." So what I mean by that is that when something comes out, you'll have someone who's an expert on this and somebody who's an expert on that, and then they'll chime in, and then you'll get what really happened, or you'll get an instant debunk, because you'll have somebody who's an expert on a camera or whatever, or like I said, just this out of the blue example about, groping someone in first class in 1979, a stewardess who worked in the airline will just chime in. And that's something I think that people never really anticipated, that there's this hive mind
Mm-hmm.
that develops. There's a solution, or people figuring things out now almost in real time. And you can look at certain events that if you talked about them will get you banned on YouTube. And I won't mention certain events that were done really, really shoddily because they didn't take into consideration what I'm calling the internet hive mind.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have
People
to back
coming
then.
from all different corners and saying, "Well, I'm an expert in photography, and I've run my own photography studio for 50 years, and this is impossible to do this." And then somebody will say, "Well, why were there so many Christmas trees delivered the day before to this certain place?" And that's something that the camera lens guy wouldn't have seen. And then you get it all together, and it's like, story doesn't make sense. It wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
So
Happens more every day.
that's something that I think happened that they didn't anticipate. And now they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle, and it's impossible. You
Mm-hmm.
can censor all you want, but no, it's too late now. People are waking up to things, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
What would you want to say there, Wild Trees?
Well, I was going to say a couple of things. One thing is that it's interesting that Angel Kid came out later, and he did a video, and he actually said something like, "I've been watching." Well, he's like, "What I've learned is that the media lies so much. The news lies." Because I guess, he came out with this story, and he saw how it was reported, and he was like, "Yeah, they're full of lies. They're distorting the truth." Because I think he was referring to like people saying that that the family went into hiding. They were trying to be like, "Oh, this family has gone into hiding. They're no longer reporting this." And I think that's what he was talking about. But he was like, "Yeah, those are all lies. That's not true." And then he's gotten kind of silent, I think, about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, I do wonder if it was like I said, I don't know. I just thought like, what if what if he did see those things? But what if it was a hoax perpetrated by somebody that wanted to get all the, because it came out right after the David Grush stuff, about the government. So it's like, are they trying to push this narrative
It
everywhere?
was like 5 days after.
Could it have been holograms or something like that?
Well, if it makes it on mainstream news,
it was like 5 days after that.
Yeah, it was.
Well, like I said, if it makes it on mainstream news, there's a reason for it to be on mainstream news, because there are a lot of stories that don't make it on there. So I don't know. You can take that for what it is, whatever.
Yeah, it's like when you're watching a movie and you're thinking, was that in there by mistake? I'm like, no, nothing's in these things by mistake. It's not. They're not just wasting screen time on the window that's ajar with a picture of somebody on it. It's in there for a reason.
Yeah.
Or you're a water skiing squirrel that always makes it. I don't know how. I don't know what they're trying. I don't know what they're trying to distract with those things. Why is it always those stories? Like in other news, cop shot 8 times. And here's a water skiing squirrel. Cut back and forth. Go to let's flip to the other camera. Yeah. I'm over here. I'm in that part of the show where I do the independent research. And I forget I'm on the show. I'm trying to find that I did hear him say that the one thing he learned was the media does lie.
Right. And to go back to that Pakistani or that boat thing we talked about, so basically this was reported 4 days ago that more than 300 Pakistani nationals have been killed in a sinking, overcrowded fishing trawler off the coast of Greece. And I'm getting this news. Yeah, it was off of Greece, the coast of Greece, the Mediterranean Sea.
I guess I don't know where Pakistan is.
Well, they're Pakistani nationals, so I don't know. That's where they're originating from.
How did they get there?
How they get around the Horn of Africa.
Yeah, I mean there's stuff to that story too. There's got to be. Yeah.
What was that canal where the Suez, with the boat got sideways? They come through there?
The Suez Canal. Yeah.
That was a wild one. That was like half of 2020. Was that crooked boat? Why is it crooked? Another thing as far as the they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle with the social media is how they're trying to kill TikTok when TikTok's doing the exact same thing as all those other apps were doing. Except TikTok didn't have ties to the elite here in America. And so they didn't have to adhere to that narrative. And you would see stuff from Ukraine be like, is there even a war going on in Ukraine? Stuff like that. You would just the alternate viewpoints from things. You see like a party going on in not Tel Aviv, but Kiev. And you turn on CNN and it's getting bombed to hell and back. I'm like, well, which one is it? It can't be both. You never know. That's why I started using TikTok again.
I have to get on that platform. I haven't done that.
It's fun. It's addicting.
Well, it's good to grow your channel, I think, because everybody's now into the whole short format thing. So
I get a lot of views on there.
What I heard is that okay, this is some information I heard, which is probably true. So it's good to know going in if you are going to start a TikTok account. So what I heard is that your first video you make from a new account, the TikTok algorithm will purposely blow it up.
Yep.
Because they do that to everybody. So what that tells me is I got to make my first video a banger, make it a really good short video, because it's going to get all this big push. And if it's getting the push and it's a good video, that'll help, a lot.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm. I get a lot of views on TikTok. As long as the video is semi-interesting at all, they'll just blow up. You get 1,000 views. I think one got 10,000.
Well, I've had shows on my channel blow up from other TikTokers. These two guys were talking about how Thomas Edison could really be a Mexican, that he wasn't really born in the United States. Well, I did a whole show on that. I did a 20-minute show on that. So these guys are going back and forth. Hey, bro. Hey, Holmes. They're lying to us about our history, and he's saying, Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the light bulb, he's really a Mexican and he was born in Zacatecas. And then that was basically it. But then what people did is they got on the internet and was like, is that true? Let's go look. And then they came to me, and my show on that exploded. And that's one example. It's happened before. And I'm scratching my head like, why am I getting so many views on this one video? This video is going viral. The other one is, where's that coming from? It's not coming from me. It's coming from TikTokers
Mm-hmm.
who are not even, I don't even know who these people are. So I think that's a pretty powerful platform. But yeah, I've got to get my act together and get on TikTok and then do some YouTube shorts also, I
I
think.
bet your area of study or expertise has a huge content gap in it. The as far as people searching for it and there being material to resource or to view, as far as like
Yeah.
the alternate history of Mexico and that seedy underbelly, there can't be
Yeah.
that much going on. I bet you're the at least top 3 in the field.
Yeah, well, when I started Mexico Unexplained, I saw that there was a need to bring to the English speaking world all of
Mm-hmm.
these,
Especially English.
weird stuff. Yeah. That's all mostly in Spanish, or even just isolated to a local area in Mexico. A lot of Mexicans contact me and say, I've never heard of La Tlanchana before. I never heard of um, the president who became president and was only in office for 14 minutes. You know, a lot of the stuff that I talk about, a lot of people who are Mexicans who live in Mexico have not even heard of. So yeah, and I'm on episode 350. 351 is this coming weekend. And it seems like I thought I'd have 100 shows and then I'd run out of material, but there's endless things to talk about, it seems. Yeah. Even
I bet.
cryptids that um like a guy was telling me there were I can't even the way woo, I think, is this big creature that the Maya believed in, but only in a certain part of the Maya world. And I'm like, where did this come from? There's always something that seems like it's coming out of nowhere, but it's always been there. It's just not widely known.
Yeah, you're dealing with a place that's had 3 different ancient civilizations.
Well,
Just
more
with
than that,
all
yeah,
different
3
stuff.
really big ones, yeah, and then
Mhm.
there are a lot of ancient civilizations that people don't know about that were there. Like if I said the Totonacs, most people won't even know who they were. And,
I've never heard of them.
yeah, but they were allied with the conquistadors because people think that the conquistadors came and because they had horses and because they had muskets, just a couple dozen of them took over a whole empire. No, they had native allies by the tens of thousands who were sick of living under the domination of the Aztecs, and the Totonacs were one of them. In the Totonac capital, there was basically the equivalent of an Aztec IRS office right down in the civic ceremonial center to make sure that the Totonacs were paying their taxes to the empire, and all the money left and went back to central Mexico. And people always talk about this magnificent city, Tenochtitlan, when the conquistadors arrived there. Yeah, it was magnificent, but it was built on the taxation, the theft, the plunder of all these other civilizations that were around that they conquered. People forget about that part.
That's astonishing that a civilization like that would have I guess not astonishing, but that they have like a tax system or an IRS office. I mean,
Yeah, and they
like
kept detailed records of who paid what. And if you didn't pay, then there were consequences. People got shipped back to the central Mexican highlands to, be sacrificed. And yeah, it was very detailed. That empire was pretty impressive, but they had so many enemies. That's why this small group of Spaniards came in and just took it over.
they
But
seize the day
yeah,
with the Spaniards.
yeah. So
Like them, kill them, kill them.
yeah,
We'll join you.
yeah.
Will they ship them back to the?
people welcomed them when they came. That's something that we don't hear. A lot
Where
of
they ship them
native
back in?
tribes welcome them. I'm sorry?
Where do they ship them back in? You said they got
What do you
shipped
mean?
back to the main headquarters.
No, they got transported. They got sent to um, Mexico City or Tenochtitlan.
Okay, I was
I
thinking
said
they didn't have
ship
horses.
because
What they use?
they just dragged them. Yeah, they just put something around their neck and just yeah, they didn't have horses and yeah, any draft animals.
Fashion Mexican dragon. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Coincidentally, we had tacos tonight. Unplanned.
Mm.
Yeah, well, it's crazy how the concept of taxes didn't take any. It's like something humans come up with on their own.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like putting
true.
monkeys in a room when they write Hamlet. Put a bunch of humans in a room, they start taxing each other.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal taxation system. You know, one part of the empire was to, send them Quetzal feathers or whatever by the ton. And then another part of the empire, cacao beans, and so on. And it all
Mm-hmm.
flowed. Archaeologists call it a dendritic system from the Latin word or Greek. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Dendros, arm. So everything flowed back to the capital city. And so, yeah, there's this magnificent city, and a lot of, modern day Mexicans look back at that as a romantic time. We wish it could be like that again. The Spanish came and ruined all this indigenous stuff. But the reality is pretty sad. That city was magnificent because it plundered a lot of different regions that did not want to be under the domination of the Aztecs.
That makes sense. It's like they
Yeah.
fall just taking the good luck they gave them. You know how were there any of Aztec or Maya? I get them mixed up in my mind, Aztec and Mayan in like upward North America, not North America, but America, USA,
Well,
like Arkansas,
supposedly
Texas.
the Aztecs supposedly originated in the southwestern US. That's a whole other story. They were a
Hmm.
wandering people who settled in central Mexico. And that's why I have a beef with modern day people, mostly Mexican Americans, who want to look back to this glorified past, partially because they feel like their present is not so good. So they have to look back to a glorious past. And they talk about how the colonizers came, meaning the Europeans, and destroyed everything. But the Aztecs were colonizers. That's something I have to mention to these people because they arrived in central Mexico in the 1300s. Hello, there were people there when they arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So they were colonizers. But originally, because their language is part of the Uto Aztecan language family, and it's related to a lot of languages that go all the way up through the Great Plains of the US. So originally, the people were from there, but their empire, when they started that empire and they started spreading it out, the northernmost they got was Tamaulipas, which is a state in Mexico that does border Texas, but it was the far southern part of Tamaulipas, which was the northern extent of the empire. So it didn't go all the way into territory of the United States. Some of their trade routes did go into New Mexico, but there was no direct domination. There were some turquoise from mines outside of Santa Fe that have been, discovered in tombs in central Mexico. So there was contact, but not political domination.
Mm-hmm. You don't think there was any contact? Well, I guess 1300s is a little late, but like what's the ancient Mexicans? Is that the Mayans?
Say that again. What?
What's the ancient Mexicans? Is that Mayans?
Well, the Aztecs were from the 1300s until the conquest. And then
Mm-hmm.
the Maya came on the scene about the time of Christ, 200 BC, and then their civilization flourished. The classic Maya flourished until about 900 AD. And then that collapsed. There was some infusion into the Maya area in the 1200s. Some people call it the Toltec influence. And then so there was a little bit of a renaissance in the area where Ed's going to go, um, in the Yucatan in the 1200s. But those are two civilizations. And then there were civilizations before that. The Olmecs are considered the mother civilization of
Okay, that's
Mexico.
what I couldn't
Yeah.
think of the
So,
Olmecs.
yeah.
I was trying to tie it into like my next question about discussed earlier about ancient civilizations knowing each other. Like, do you think they knew the Egyptians or knew
No. Where's the
I
proof?
need
I mean,
I
and
need them to
I
know
have a
each other.
lot I have a lot of people who come to my channel who believe that, and I emphasize believe that the ancient Mexicans, the civilizations came from Africa. And they look at the gigantic stone heads of the Olmecs and say, look, those are African features. And so therefore,
I've heard that before.
yeah, and there's a whole system based on this belief. And yeah, they come to my channel and try to argue with me, and there's really nothing I can say to them but show me proof, and there's really no proof. There's a lot of
Nope.
wishful thinking. I hate to say, there's no DNA, there's no linguistic evidence, there's nothing else that these people have other than everybody comes from Africa, so therefore these civilizations came from Africa. And I mean, did they have ocean-going vessels? There are a lot of questions there. So I don't think there was any contact. And I mean, you have to show me proof. I did a show about a Roman artifact found underneath a pyramid, the head of that looks Roman, and someone said it looked Dacian, and Dacia was a Roman province. I believe it's now Romania. And because they're wearing a cap that they used to wear in that part of the Roman Empire. But there's a lot of controversy behind that figurine. And like I said, I just present what's out there. And personally, I don't believe that the ancient Romans were in ancient Mexico. But if you can show me some evidence and we can sit down and look at it and discuss it, I'm open to it. I'm open to anything. I'm open to ancient Egyptian contact with Mexico. Show it to me. Show me the evidence. Let's talk about it. Come to my channel.
That'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm
Just
open to it.
The Egyptians and the Mexicans chilling,
Yeah. Hey,
sharing pyramid plans.
there's even a theory saying that civilization originated in Mexico and then went to Egypt from Mexico. And that there's a story of an Egyptian princess who came from far away, blah, blah, blah. And she originally came from the Yucatan. And so there's a whole other community of researchers that believes in that hypothesis that ancient Mexico is the mother civilization of all civilizations on Earth, and that they went to different places to seed the world with their, their ancient civilization. So there are theories all over the place. Let's
You
talk
get
about them.
you get into that soup, it could be any direction.
Yeah,
There's no way to prove any of it.
yeah. You know, I I've been to a lot of archaeological sites around the world. I've been to Tiwanaku. I've been to Sacsayhuaman, the Peruvian sites. I've also been to Easter Island, and there's an altar that's on Easter Island, an altar of Moai, a platform, and the way that it's built, it looks exactly like it was constructed in Peru? Is there a connection between the two? Well, there are reeds that grow around Lake Titicaca that also grow inside around a lake in the volcano in Easter Island. So these totora reeds. So, was there a connection between the two? Possibly. Let's talk about it. I don't know. Could that wall have been constructed in the same way just by chance? Yeah, it could. Were those reeds that are only found in these two places, was that introduced later? Possibly. We don't know when that. There was contact between Peru and Easter Island after the Spanish arrived. In fact, the entire population of that island was removed to Peru as slaves in the 1800s. So, you know, it gets complicated. That's my point.
It's not too far a stretch to think Peru and Easter Island, and I mean they're not that far away.
It's a 6-hour flight from Lima.
I mean,
It's like
they're in the
flying from
same
California to Hawaii. It's a long way away. If you
they're in the
look on
same
a
ocean
map,
though.
it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's one of the most isolated places on Earth.
Is it close to
But
Point Nemo?
what, huh?
You Point Nemo, the most isolated point on Earth.
Where is that? Oh,
It's
that's from some show. That's
oh,
from
it's
some Disney movie.
oh no, it's actually called Point Nemo. It's the center of the
Oh,
Pacific Ocean. The
is it?
closest
I sorry.
the people on the space station are closer to you there than the nearest land.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. See, in my mind, Easter Island's off the coast of South America, so like they'll just go there in a canoe. I didn't realize it was that far.
It's very far. Yeah, it belongs to Chile because in 1888 a gunboat showed up and said, "Now you're part of our country." And it's an interesting place because it's a backwater, and a lot of people from Chile, from Santiago, the bigger nasty cities, they go there. It's like their little Hawaii, but it's still a very rough place. It's a very rough place. I love it there. I want to go back because I have a theory about how that civilization collapsed, a theory that I've never seen anywhere, that is right in front of our faces. And I'm not telling anybody about it until I can get more information and actual proof to substantiate why I believe that the civilization collapsed on Easter Island. But I think I have it figured out. I have to go to England. I have to go to England to find the information that I'm missing.
You're gonna break the
But
door down,
anyway,
Easter Island door down.
that's another project for when I have time, which I never have time. So whatever.
You don't have time to just go to England?
It's right now in my life, it's kind of tight for a lot of things. So yeah, I'm
Are there wild
doing
horses
some
on Easter
pretty
Island?
ambitious stuff. And we were talking earlier before we went on air. We were talking earlier about living in California and what you have to do to live here. So yeah, you've always got to keep going and achieving and doing more stuff. And yeah, so I'm pushing my businesses to the next level in the next 6 months. So I'm not going to have much time to do a lot of this, you know, interesting stuff. But
At least you're not trying
so
to live off the government or anything.
what?
Doing your own thing. At least
Huh?
you're not like a
Oh,
like a
yeah.
wealth.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people here are on public assistance, and I don't know how they do it. If you're going to rent an apartment, a studio in San Diego is going to be minimum $1,500 a month in a
Wow.
bad area. Yeah. One
Wow.
bedrooms, one bedrooms are 1,900, $2,000, two bedrooms, 2,500. But yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, so that's life in Southern California.
I'm now Google Earthing Street View Easter Island. So
Oh, cool.
Planning my
Wonder
next
what
vacation.
they're going. Yeah, it's a sleepy town, and I'm pretty close to some people who are there who I met there who are part of like the ruling family of the island. When Kontiki, when they wrote one, wait, not ah, what is it? What was the guy's name? The guy who did Kontiki, Thor Heyerdahl. When he went to Easter Island, the governor of the island was this guy's grandfather, who I became friends with down there. And he's actually come to California and we've hung out for a while. But the Atan family. And where was I going with this? Oh, he told me that during the Great Plague that swept the earth a few years, the past couple years, the island was completely locked down, and there were no flights, no boats coming from the mainland. Like it was the old times. He was saying it was like the old times before they opened the airport in 1968. They would only have like a couple boats come a year. But when the whole plague thing was coming down, they shut down the island and they mobilized the resources like everybody should grow vegetables and raise chickens and all that stuff. And they found that they really didn't need the outside world. And they
I
were
bet they
living like
didn't.
they were when they were isolated. And they were,
Place looks fertile. Probably gets plenty of
yeah,
rain.
it's happy go lucky. The people, yeah. I mean, I've been invited to go back many times. I've actually been invited to go and stay there. I mean, I could live there if I wanted to, and I could get all the paperwork arranged for me. And you know what? Sometimes I think that would be a good thing. Just close everything down here, all of this stuff, and just say, I'm done and I'm gone and I'm going there.
I bet I could sell
So,
my house, pocket 200 grand, and move to Easter Island right now.
yeah.
Keep the podcast going. They got internet, surely.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So,
I can move
anyway,
next to
it's
one of
an
them giant
interesting
heads.
place. It's it's on a lot of people's bucket lists, and I say just go. Do it. I went during the Tapati Rapa Nui Festival in 2013, and that's a week-long native festival where they, you know, have all of these different contests and things like that. And it was really interesting. It was a great showcase for culture.
Do they have any cryptids and or ghost stories, something like that?
Do they? Yeah, they do. And I can't really go into it because I don't know a lot of there's like there are caves that are there that have spirits in them. And I actually went into the caves. We were walking around. Yeah, I had a great unique experience when I went there. And yeah, they have their local legends just like any place. And I don't know if to my knowledge, I don't think there's like any sort of anthology, any sort of thing published about them. So that would be interesting to research, actually. So anyone who's listening or watching, there's an opportunity for you to make your mark. Go out there and write a book on the fables, the legends, the mysteries of Easter Island. That'll be a good one.
It's so
Hell
wild. I
yeah.
was looking at the size of that island, 63 square miles.
Yeah, it's tiny.
It is only just a slightly bit bigger than my hometown, and it's an
Mm.
island.
Yeah,
Holy
it's
shit!
tiny. Nothing around it. It's like you got to wonder how did people even discover it, you know? But I think they were following birds. So
Mhm.
that's how they were doing it. That's how they got there.
Ornithologist. Is that a bird person? What's an ornithologist?
Yeah, it's a bird
Yep,
person.
That's a bird person. Ah, look at me. Hey, now who's a scientist? What?
Mhm.
I just did my dissertation right in front of you. Are the heads still there? The Easter Island heads?
Oh, they're all yeah. Yeah, they're still there. Yeah. And they're
I just
pretty
remember the
big. People, oh, did aliens come down and levitate them to where they, to the altars where they stand and all that stuff. It's not impossible for Stone Age people to have carved these and moved them. Okay. And people are saying, well, there's El Gigante, and it's this gigantic one that weighs so many tons that's still in the side of the volcano. Well, maybe there's a reason why it's still on the side of the volcano. I don't think they could have moved that because it's huge. So, and they never did. They all stopped carving, and it's a big mystery. But like I said, I think I understand the reason why, and it's a very simple explanation that people are overlooking. But that's what happens when researchers get too involved with stuff. They seem to overlook what's obvious, you know, something that's right in front of their faces. They get so down into the details, and yeah, so it takes an
You
outsider sometimes.
start having that eureka moment. Wait
Yeah.
a second. I'm over here looking at the giant heads. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing, that whole place. It's great. And people ask me, well, what was the thing there that was the most shocking to you or the most unusual or whatever? And I always say the tomatoes. And you go like, what? I've never tasted tomatoes like that in my life. The tomatoes they grow on that island, I don't know what it is. It's the magic soil, the volcanic soil or
I was gonna
whatever.
say, I bet it's the
But
volcano.
yeah, so that was the most surprising thing to me. I never would have expected that, but yeah,
Because when you grow nightshade like that, you always start a fire.
really. Oh,
And
for
like
the charcoal.
like the big thing back in the day, like old timers where I grew up, were talking about making their own tobacco plants
Hmm.
because they would all dip snuff and chew tobacco, and they would go down on the creek and build a big bonfire one afternoon and then plant their tobacco seeds right there.
Oh,
They'd mix that giant fire ash. So yeah, it's just one giant version of that. I bet it is good. Are they red? Are they real fat and red and big?
and just flavorful. But I guess all the produce there is too. So yeah,
You ever had a tomato sandwich
I guess a long time ago.
or a Tennessee taco, as they call them? Call them a mater sandwich.
No,
You
I've
take the
never had a Tennessee taco.
Yep. Well, you take a big fresh slice of white bread. That's when you first get bread, how it's soft as it can be.
Uh-huh.
You take that and put mayonnaise on it, or mayonnaise as we call it, and on both sides, and you slice that fresh tomato down the middle till it's the width of the bread, about thumb thick, and you put it on there and smush it together, and it's a mater sandwich. Perfect
Sounds
flavor
good.
combination. But if the tomato has to almost be blood red in the middle, it tastes like dirt. It's the most amazing flavor combination. And I hate tomatoes, but that tomato sandwich, all day. Now I want an Easter Island tomato sandwich. That may be on my bucket list.
Yeah, you need to go there. I suggest anybody who's interested in ancient mysteries or paranormal or anything unusual, you've got to go there. It really is it is an amazing place.
So far away. Let's see flights to.
Yeah. It
You gotta take a
it is
puddle jumper at any
crazy.
point. I bet you do.
What?
Puddle jumper like a little airplane.
No. You can fly in on a 737 or whatever. The
Really?
major airlines in South America go from either Lima, Peru, or Santiago, Chile. And then there's another way to go from Tahiti. So those are the three ways to get there. And they're huge. And they built a pretty big airport, I think in 1968, if I'm correct. I think that's when they built it. And like Pan Am and major airlines flew in there. So yeah, no puddle jumpers. There were some smaller planes at the airport, so I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
they were private jets and things. Yeah.
This is a portion of the show where, like I said earlier, I'd forget I'm on a show. I'm now shopping for flights. Oh, they do have a big
Get with
airport.
it. The
Wow, it's the
scholars,
width of-
in 20 years, the scholars who will be analyzing your corpus of work will have a certain term that they're going to use for this kind of presentation that you had in the early days.
the collaborative podcast model.
Where did Trees go? Did he leave us?
Trees, he's still there somewhere. The edible might have kicked in. Where'd he? Oh, there he is.
Oh, there
Hey,
he is.
sorry. We were on Easter Island. We left you out. I don't know what happened. I think the edible kicked in. Cool. How long has it been? Maybe time to. Holy Jesus! What in the? How'd we go to 8:40? Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to wrap up. We should have a regular show. That went quick.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it. Yeah,
You got Robert, the walking encyclopedia, or Wikipedia, I guess,
God.
nowadays.
It's nearly
Well-
bedtime. I'm over here just over on Easter Island at the gift shop.
I'm really good at parties. I just don't get invited to many. But
You should.
that's about all it's good for these days. I mean, I don't know, parlor tricks and useless information. I don't know.
Since I know you won't do the typical thing that Californians do when they move here, I should invite you to move here. She moved out.
Yeah, I don't
stay.
understand. I'm always looking to leave for some reason. I get these fantasies in my head, well, I'll go someplace else and I'll have a better life and and live cheaper and buy a gigantic house and invest in all these properties and all this stuff. And it's funny to me to hear people say, well, don't bring your liberal politics, don't bring what you're leaving behind here. And it's
Please
like,
don't.
what? Why would I do that? It's like, yeah, the first thing I'm going to do isn't, I have in my mind the things that I would say to people, and I won't repeat them here, but why would someone want to do that?
Oh, they do.
You're leaving a place. Why would you want to bring it with you? Makes no
do.
sense.
They get all pissy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to, if I leave California, I'm not going to bring it with me. I'm bringing myself. That's
You
it.
can bring some avocados.
Yeah.
Various
They're cheap
fruits.
here. They grow in San Diego County. There are even some of them trees growing wild by the freeway. There's one tree that is by one of the freeways here, the off ramp, and those avocados get to be bigger than grapefruits. But when they're in season, you can buy 5 for $1. I mean, they're super cheap. And I know in
Dang.
other parts of the country they're like $2 a piece or something. But
Yeah, they're a little bit
when they
higher
come into season, man, they are super cheap.
Imagine an Easter Island growing avocado. It'd be really good fat.
Yeah.
Much like me, they're good fat. All right, fellas, I think we're going to wrap up. I didn't realize it was so late, and I'm always feel selfish when I keep people over an hour.
It's okay.
I know you're.
I had somebody want me to do a 6-hour show with them.
6
and
hours.
I said, I initially agreed, but I've done 3-hour shows. 3.5 is the longest show I've done. And by the 2-hour mark, my voice goes if I'm doing most of the talking. And 6 hours, I don't know how. He was like, oh, we do it like once a month. And
What are you
well,
talking
more
about?
power
For 6
to
hours?
you. I mean, if you can do that, then that's great. But I don't think I can.
You're getting down literary works of art and looking through the bibliography for stuff? Damn.
Yeah, I mean,
I used to take those once a week classes in college that were like 3.5 hours long. I want to blow my brains out.
I have this one friend. He's a medical doctor. We've been friends for a while, and we talk maybe every 2 weeks. And I sort of, well, see, we have a format. We usually talk about movies we've seen, video games, news, science, and then women. And sometimes we talk for 8 hours easily. It just goes by. Like I'll look at the phone. It's been 8 hours. We've just been talking.
On the phone?
Yeah, just an 8 hour
Oh my
conversation every
God.
2 weeks. But like I said, we go through all those topics. We have all those topics in common, and so we just kind of knock them all out.
8 hours.
Man,
I couldn't do that. I mean, not just because of my voice, but I don't have that kind of time. It's just, yeah,
that's
that
aggressive.
would
It's
be
like people
hard
that
for me.
read.
Well, I say I don't have that kind of time. You do. You have as much time as you want. You just gotta, it would be rough for me to schedule something like that. But, anything's possible, anything's doable. But yeah, that would be hard.
Hmm. It'd be more fun to do it in little bits and pieces like this than that long.
Yeah.
Nobody's listening to it.
Well, the guy with the 6-hour podcast, he had a pretty big following, and he was based out of Florida, and he had a lot of people following him in England. And so when the Florida people would stop listening, then the England people would come in and listen. So he
Nice.
had that, he had a lot of people in his, chat, the
Mm-hmm.
same amount of people, but they were shuffling in and out, from different places.
So they're like parsing it out like it's different episodes. They're just coming in and out.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, I'm big in Nigeria for some reason. Yeah.
I
It's
was,
part of my
and
tagline there.
I hate to use the 1980s song title, but I was big in Japan for a couple months. My Twitter, for some
Huge in
reason, I
Japan.
had all of these people from Japan sign up for my Twitter within about a month or 2 months. And I don't even know what Japanese looks like. I took a screenshot and I put it on Facebook and I said, some people from some Asian country are friending me. And then a friend of mine from, elementary school, middle school, high school said, "Oh, that's Japanese. They're all from Japan." I'm like, "Oh, okay." 'Cause I had no idea.
Hey, there's billions of them. Imagine if you got like 1% of the entire continent of Asia.
Yeah, wow.
You could retire with that amount of audiences.
That can be your next goal.
Hey, I looked. What it was Wild Trees. Remembered I paid $5 on Fiverr for
Mhm.
somebody for a Nigerian to advertise my podcast
Yeah,
to
I
10
remember
million
that.
people, and I got to like 10% Nigerian listeners. I got a bunch of subscribers, and a week later, YouTube took them all back.
Oh
Wiped
man.
them out. I was like, well, that was fun while it lasted. I'm back to negative -1% in Nigeria. I'm big in the United Kingdom and Germany and Canada and Sweden.
Oh, that's
2%
interesting.
Swedish.
Hmm.
My bum is on the Swedish. So let's see. Covered everything. Mexico Unexplained is MexicoUnexplained.com. Is that correct?
Yes,
It's in the
sir.
description. It better be because I copied and pasted it.
Yeah, and you can find me on all major social media, but not OnlyFans. Remember?
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
and
You took that. You took that down.
yeah, um, I couldn't
couldn't
handle
keep.
the traffic.
Yeah, couldn't keep up with demand. That's what I was going to say.
And if you're on Discord and I happen to be on there, I'm Robert Bitto on Discord. If you happen to be on there and
Bitto.
you want to chat and I'm there, whatever. So yeah, I'm pretty accessible. Anybody who wants to reach out, I'm easy to find, and I love hearing from people. If you know anything about Mexico and you have a story you want me to look into, I'm on it. So yeah, I want everybody to get in touch with me who feels like they should.
Yeah, very approachable. And Wild Trees is youtube.com/biologist wild trees. It's not hard to find if you type in biologist wild trees. Bigfoot's his profile
Yeah.
picture.
Even if you go to Google, I typed in Balish Wild Trees in Google, and the first thing is my YouTube channel. You could even do that.
Cool.
That's how I found you forever. Whenever we first started talking, it's like, where is he at?
On Google?
Yeah, I was like, that's how I found your channel. Back when I
Dude.
only knew everybody through Damien's channel.
And how did you find Damien's channel? Or was it through that guy that you interviewed that saw the goblin?
Yeah, that he was really shy and didn't want to talk to anybody new, so Damien got me in there to be like a spokesman.
Yeah, and how did you find the goblin guy? Jason Sandberg.
Same way I find everybody else, just cold calling. He said he saw a Sasquatch, and I'm like, did you now?
Interesting.
Yep.
Cool.
And always, anybody listening now, please subscribe to my channel and share it. It'll always be on bobbydizzle.com. So I'm not going to offer any other ways to find me now. So it's now the Captain Cryptid. Man, that's a good idea. I should have said that. I should have said
Damn,
Captain.
That's a good one.
Drink Captain your coffee. the Caffeinated Cryptid. And I just noticed my watermark worked on my video. So that's something. Caffeinated Cryptid with Bobby Dizzle. And thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Robert and Wild Trees. And I'm sad that Ryan Paul Tremblay couldn't be here, but he'll be here for another time. Save the best for last. His channel's in the description too. It's real good. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Robert. Say goodbye.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
I want you to say goodbye, Robert. Okay.
Goodbye.
Adios. Thanks, Wild Trees and Robert. Thanks everyone for watching. Sarah, everybody for sharing. Take it easy.